everybody. Welcome to the Calling All Heroes podcast. I am George.
Walls.
Kramer.
Tim.
All four of us are here, and then there were four. And we are kicking off this week. Got a number of things to talk about, not the least of which is that Marvel has released, in their this week's previews, they're basically showing everything they're trying to do to make up to all the longtime fans like us.
Absolutely.
About time.
Yeah. Very cool.
And Walls, you brought some info regarding their numbering system.
Yeah, I get if anyone's interested in looking at this, I get a newsletter from Mile High Comics, and Chuck put out an attachment on the last. I guess if you got on their site, you could look at their posts. And what he did was, or what they did was, they compiled all the titles of particular characters, like Amazing Spider-Man, Hulk. They have taken all the different runs and to give everybody an idea where the numbering system is going to be. Of course, with for instance, the Hulk, they're including Tales to Astonish #1 all the way up to when it became the Hulk title, which was 102, and then all the various and sundry other Hulks. They're adding them together to give a particular number. I'm just looking at this one here. Amazing Spider-Man will start at number 789, and it shows all the different runs, like from 1 through 441, and then the other titles of Spider-Man that will comprise what is Amazing Spider-Man. And
I like the way, because the Marvel previews obviously just jumps up and shows you what the number is,
right.
But what you're bringing in here, I mean, they break down specifically every
it's
single
an actual
one.
Explanation of why there's this number.
Yeah,
why
they combined all the. It's really funny because the ones I didn't even realize, like Venom and things like remember the little Venoms were all like 3 parts, 4 parts. They have them all. They show each one of them. They have them all combined to make Venom. What's on 152 now or something like that? Yeah.
So that's every single title that basically held
that had Venom in it. Yeah, and then they're just going to start it at that particular point, and then they're going to have a number. So
that's interesting, because just because it was a miniseries doesn't mean it should be included.
Right.
I mean, the Hulk's had a million different miniseries, but in one-shots, but they don't need to be included in the number.
But they're not all of them. I went through. They're not all of them. They're specific ones.
Well, you're just talking about like the actual series, like when Kyle Hodge did some stuff.
Right. The one
that's in there.
Well, yeah. How far did that go until it became the Amazing or the Incredible Hercules? It's included. It's including that entire run. That's in there. There's the other ones. I didn't look at them thoroughly. I'm not sure if the Red Hulk is included and all that, but there are certain ones that they specifically cite as part of the series. So.
Well, and from a marketing standpoint, it's a pretty smart move, because then all those back issues that you may have not paid attention to, like collectors might have not cared about, all of a sudden I'm like, Superior Spider-Man was never on my radar, but if I'm a completist or I'm trying to fill in, or if they're even counting some of these because they might have things in the future that has to be part of the canon.
Yeah, so people are digging back trying to find it.
Yeah, now you're looking for more stuff. That just creates more interest. That's a cool move.
Appeasing the fans becomes, pretty smart marketing move, possibly.
More dollars.
I don't remember which one of you guys I was talking to over the last week about that, but it's not even so much like, oh, great, Marvel, thanks so much. It's more like you said, it's about time.
Yeah.
Well, it's about time they bring all these characters back.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. I could care less if they have 750 or 1,000 or 1,200 issues. Bring the character back.
I'm really digging. I'm looking through that you have this one preview here that is showing some of the covers and things, the Kirby covers and different things that they're really cool. I mean, there's going to be a lot of really neat variants too that they're going to go along with this series. I think. Anyway.
Yeah, the Kirby T-shirt covers, and then the covers that look like they're from the '60s and the '70s.
Yeah,
it's not just the numbering thing. I think they're trying to appease our demographic.
They're trying to make up with us a little bit.
Yeah. Now, what'll be great is if they do it without requiring 50 or 100 copies to be purchased, to be allowed to purchase one of those. You think that would be a good idea, since it doesn't cost any more to print the book. Like, let's get as many people on board as possible.
But there's going to have to be some collectability to it. I mean, let's be honest. We know that. But, I mean, from what I'm seeing so far, it looks really cool. Especially these little heads that look like little Kirby heads. They're like a little picture of the Hulk there. It's neat looking.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, because I noticed the Savage Dragon that came out today. I don't know if you got any of them in this week, but they were all the ones like a Captain America tribute.
Oh, yeah.
$225, I think is what it is.
Really?
And the lettering and everything is based upon Captain America, the big letters. It's a really cool cover.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course, Larson's always paid tribute to Marvel.
Yeah.
Always.
Right.
Yeah.
All the time. And I get nostalgic every time I see somebody pay tribute to the old Marvel or DC. You know, the logos and the format of the covers.
Well, I've only run my gums a million times about this, but Spawn 220 through 231, the homage covers that Todd did are all super cool. I mean, they're all neat looking.
Did you pick up the new Spawn Wednesday? Did you get it?
Yeah.
What's your take on the new artist?
I like it.
I thought it was a brave departure.
I like it.
It's
I like
a lot
it, too.
different than Kadransky, but
Yeah.
it's very Sam Keith.
Yeah.
And I love it.
It was a combination of, to me, several artists. That's a good analogy there is Keith, but it was a combination of several artists that I really actually it reminds me a little bit when his colorist Brian Haberlin was doing the book too. It has a little bit of that feel to it.
Yeah.
I really dig it.
Yeah,
I like
good.
the story. I think the storyline's really cool.
like that action part where you see his mouth, like the teeth and stuff. It's like, wow, I've never seen that before.
And flying through there
page.
over Tokyo, it's really cool. I think it's really cool. Yeah.
Pick up the new Spawn, guys. It's great.
Pick up. Read Spawn. It's really cool.
Yeah.
The storyline is cool, and and it's going to be hitting old 300 here
Pretty soon,
which
it's
is
like
super
280s.
cool.
It's
But
280s, isn't it? 280s.
yeah, but
Something like that.
late 270s. I think 270. I
can't remember.
I'll lose numbers.
It's getting close.
Well, speaking of that round number, I noticed in a lot of those Marvels, a disproportionate number of those Marvel books, they're all like a year or 13, 14 months away from hitting a big milestone number. And I wonder if that, A, had anything to do with kicking this off now, or B, certain books like this, like including certain books in the canon, so that you got a 1 year plan
Looking
to get to
forward
that
to
big
that.
800.
Yeah,
Well,
looking forward.
Thor is starting off at 700,
Oh,
which is interesting. When you said that, I'm like, well, wait a second, let me look that over.
Yeah. Well, Hulk, I
Hulk
guess
709.
709.
Yeah. Well, that's Deadpool 287. That's some of the things that they chose. Black Panther 166. The Avengers 672. So that'll be hitting 700. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on here. Well, they could have done that without.
Right.
They could have done that without going through all this.
I'm excited about it, though. I may have mentioned this before. When we opened about, I guess we're coming up on almost 2 years. In
Yep.
October
This
will
fall.
be 2 years, yeah. When we opened, I was ordering retail dollars. I was ordering in the beginning around $500 or $600 in Marvel and about $200 in DC. And now, 2 years later, I'm ordering usually around $1,400 in DC and about $400 in Marvel. And I mean, just that's the difference. And hopefully this turns it around, because I'm a Marvel guy before a DC guy.
Me too.
I think we all are.
Yes.
Yeah. I did flip over to the dark side for a little bit, because I followed my artist.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Follow Jim Lee. You follow Finch.
Yeah.
As the
I still like their
retailer,
stuff, so I still go.
as the retailer of the group, I encourage you
It's
to
all
try
about,
as many.
buy anything you want.
Yeah,
Well,
help
it-
yourself.
For me, it's about titles and stories and things too. Because for a while, I don't get a lot of main titles. I buy a lot of. I'm a back issue guy. I do follow some titles, obviously, but it was for periods of time, like when Swamp Thing was really huge for me. I mean, I guess you'd say more of a DC person, because that's what I was reading at the time, and I really loved that title. But I don't think I have a real true affinity for anyone, but I've always been a Marvel person. I mean, that's what I started off on. But I also remember Swamp Thing when I was a kid too, and that was I don't think as a kid it didn't mean that much to me. It was a comic book.
Right,
I didn't
yeah.
really. I mean, I knew the difference, but it wasn't
Sure.
that big of a thing to me. But I'd
Well,
say
how about this? When we were young in the late 60s and early 70s, Marvel was on fire,
right.
putting out some of the most classic, iconic comic books of all
Yes.
time. And DC was not
No.
in any way, shape, or form.
No.
Does that make sense?
No.
I mean,
Pow,
I mean
bam,
Neil Adams was around stuff doing Batman back then, but yeah, they have yet I know Swamp Thing. Of
Well,
course.
my wheelhouse, Swamp Thing was the thing from DC. Was the thing for me. I
Right.
mean, everything else I read were like monster reprints or what Marvel was doing. But for me, that was like the big initiation to DC. Even though they had like Batman. I mean, like I knew I was obviously aware of Batman was and looked at that kind of looked at Batman titles and things like that. But I've never been a Superman guy. I just the Swamp Thing was the thing that initiated me into DC. Really,
Yeah.
Kirby Demon. Then of course and then I went
Right.
back and discovered I knew of Kamandi and things like that. I went back and got that. But once again though, that was mostly Kirby, who was a Marvel guy. I mean so.
Yeah, Stan Lee
Yeah.
and Kirby, those guys changed comics. And
Yeah.
then DC was playing catch up for a long time.
Well, you said you've never been a Superman guy.
No.
I never really have either. but I actually buy that title now because I like Gleason's art.
Right.
And like when he did like the New 52 with Batman and Robin and stuff, I just really enjoy that stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool. So I actually do get Superman, and
Cool.
it's really not a bad story. I mean, I'm not taking up for him or anything because it's kind of like, you know, the 60s Superman icon in my head, you know.
Right.
You know, Crypto, the dog, and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I just, you know, when it comes out and Gleason's on the art, it's like, yeah, man, Gleason's back, you know, and then they'll take a couple months off.
Well, that's something
It's
you and I
neat.
share
It's
a lot of. Is we follow artists.
Yeah,
a good bit.
yeah.
I mean, I know I do.
Right,
And,
right,
yeah.
and there are certain artists, if they take over a title or do something, I'm on board with it. It might be even a title I have zero interest in whatsoever.
Exactly.
But if it's a cool artist, I'm like going,
I'll take a look.
Yeah.
I remember being up at the hospital, and sure, where my head's at, it escapes me which child was being born. I'm not sure which angle it was, but when I was up there,
Boy or
for no
girl?
earthly reason, there was a Ed McGuinness Superman issue just sitting in the pile of magazines, and because you're sitting there, and that's, you know, am I reading Good Housekeeping or am I going to read a comic book?
Yeah.
And I'm not a Superman fan, but I mean, I just thought his take on that was awesome.
Well,
loved
I'm
it.
an Ed McGuinness fan
Yeah.
for sure.
The Hulk stuff was
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, and he's a comic. He's going to be a Comic-Con bowl. I'm really excited about that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, his Hulk, very, really nice, bold, clean lines. Love it. I love his style. Really do.
Yep.
What?
Just said yep. I don't know.
Uh-oh, it started. A little yep. Here we go.
You're gonna have to rein us in there.
I don't know if you guys heard any of the podcasts that we did the other day that's supposed to be 15 minutes and ended up running, I think, 30.
Yeah, it was like a
35.
half hour.
We talked about almost everything but the movie.
Tim
We did
shamefully
cover-
stares at his heels.
Yeah,
about
yeah.
We did cover the movie. We did cover it, but but you guys talking about stuff that's coming out. I found this page in previews. I about fell out of my chair at home. It's an old '90s, early '90s Kevin Eastman, Simon Beasley book that's coming out. It's called Ronin Bebop, and it's a reprint. Obviously, it's from the early '90s, and it's classic Beasley from that time period.
Sweet.
And I'm all about that. I'm very excited. Did you see that?
I've seen it.
Yeah. What was that originally in? Was it in like Heavy Metal or something, or
Don't know.
don't know? Because
Yeah,
I know that Fistful of Blood was in Heavy Metal.
That title is vague to me. I mean, but it could have been in heavy metal. I don't know. I'll have to look back.
Yeah, it doesn't say where it was from. It just says, well, it says small print run independent publishing efforts of the early '90s. So
I was a hit and miss with heavy metal for a while. He was doing a lot of covers.
Yeah.
And so was Corbin. And Corbin
Right.
actually would throw some stories in there every now and then. I sort of lost. It's great that's to me an iconic magazine that still exists. It started in April of 1977,
Right.
which I think is really cool. I have like the first 3-year run because that's when Corbin's Den first started, and there was a lot of really cool art at that time. The movie is based on a lot of stories that were occurring that particular time. Captain Stern with Wrightson and Angus McGee. I mean, there was a lot of the first 3 years of Heavy Metal magazine are phenomenal for story and artwork. They're great. But after a while, just sort of I sort of lost a little bit of favor with it. But they every now and then bring things back like that. I'm assuming possibly that's where it came from.
yeah, that's pretty cool that it's IDW picked it up. So I mean that's pretty awesome.
It's interesting that being IDW probably is why. It's just interesting they don't say what it's reprinting.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah,
Probably
they're
because
not
they
gonna-
want you to get that and not go back and pick,
right.
pick the books
yeah,
up.
yeah. Small print run. So
Yeah.
obviously this is the no-brainer.
Yeah.
You know, so that and the other thing I wanted to tell you guys about, I don't know if you saw, you all don't creep on the Facebook page like I do, but that Mike Plug Beasley combination thing that they
Yes.
did in 2007, 2008,
Yeah.
Thicker Than Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Kickstarter thing, man, that looks like crazy. I don't know. Did you see that?
Yeah. Well,
Oh man.
well, thanks to you, I got to see it because it was a little suggestion
I think
from
I
Tim
may,
here. I'm
I
like
may
going,
have, I
let me
may
look
have
at that.
tagged you guys in it, just
Yeah.
because I care.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you feel the love?
I am
Yeah.
touched.
You're welcome, America.
America. It's funny. The podcast gives me like a rough breakdown of where the downloads or listens are happening, and it's funny because every week there's 2 or 3 from Mexico and 2 or 3 from Japan. And
Muy
I'm thinking,
bien.
I wonder, who's there and who's listening to that. And if you're listening to it right now and you're in Mexico or Japan or Europe, send us a message. I just love to know where you're at specifically, and what you think of it and what the circumstances are surrounding you
That would be
finding
cool.
it and watching it.
Yeah.
I just think that's
Yeah.
really neat.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah,
Demographic. I like it.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
The world's nerdiest focus group right here.
Yes.
And Kramer nods his head.
Marvel's are also doing a little bit of I guess since they're feeding what we want, they're also trying to what I call bottom feed the program, and that is catch kids. I think younger and younger. They actually sent me this thing. Obviously, you guys can't see it, but it's Marvel Comics Digest's little stand, and I had some of the books.
Oh, yeah.
But they're releasing.
that's cool.
They're releasing more, and they're going to be like My First Reader. That will basically start out for 4 and 5 year olds, and they're going to break it down in like a 4 or 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12,
neat.
and like there'll be a whole series of them, and they're priced pretty reasonable. I mean, usually those things go for $9.99 or $14.99, and they're all going to be $5. And I don't know, I thought that was really, really neat. There's also a book that Marvel has, and it's called 3-Minute Bedtime Stories that's coming out, and basically it's 3-minute superhero bedtime story with a moral in it, and you can basically pick up the whole storybook that has 25 or 30 of these stories, and it's almost like, well, we'll catch you before you can read. We'll do it when your parents are theoretically reading to you, right? And then get an early thing. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, I'll probably check that out for Owen.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how much truth this is. This is a story I always heard before KISS blew up. Gene Simmons was a teacher in New York City.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he, of course, I guess as most starting teachers, he was given the quote unquote, problem children. And, didn't want to. And the story I think he's told is the fact that he got them to read comic books. He would get them because he loved. I don't know where he's at today, but he was really a huge comic book fan. I think specifically Marvel too. I remember he saying Black Bolt was like one of his favorite characters, something like that. But anyways, he was getting the kids to read via comic books and write reports on them, things like that, because they really weren't that much interested in paying attention to them. But he was apparently terminated for doing that, as the story goes. But I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's great for comic books, and it's great for kids. I mean, it's just great for anybody. I love to read. I don't do enough of it, I think, but I enjoy reading. I always enjoyed reading, and when I was going to school, we were encouraged to do that. We were encouraged to read. I mean, I think there was much more of an emphasis on it, and I think with this video technological internet world that we live in, people read, but not. I mean, it's mostly it's image related. I mean, it's mostly image related. I think, and
No, yeah, I agree with that.
I think it's important for people to continue to read.
Sure.
I don't want to sound like
No, I mean that's the truth.
But I think
comics
it's
are
cool
a great gateway for that.
Right.
It's like, hey, you're having fun and you're learning something, but we're not pointing out the fact. It's not like that's the focus. It's not an obligation,
Right.
And I think that's where that goes.
Oh, neat.
Absolutely.
Pretty
Our
cool.
kids loved. I mean, our kids loved to be read to. I mean, when they were little, they liked stories and things like that. That was really cool. I always enjoyed that. Until they got to be a certain age, but they liked to hear a story.
Yeah, that was
tell
a
story.
good time. That's a good
Yeah.
memory for me too. I remember that stuff.
Yeah. It's funny you guys say that because we did that too. I remembered just the other day we were talking about it. My wife, I guess she doesn't have the best singing voice. She's not always at pitch. I love her to death, but that's just some of us have. That we all have our shortcomings. And I remember Savannah being about 1 or 1.5 years old, and Raelle starting to sing her a bedtime story. She took her hand and put it over her mouth and went, "No, Mama, no."
Yeah. Kids are the best critics, man.
Yeah, they're brutally honest.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I go sleep now, mommy.
All right, guys. Well, let's go on another topic here. We had a question. Do you guys think that there is anything that could happen that would make you enjoy the current situation in Marvel, even though they are bringing your favorite characters back? So, what I personally take from that is, are we going to deviate from, because I don't think any of us are huge fans of what Marvel is doing right now. But now that they're bringing back the new characters, is it even easier to just ignore the other stuff? Maybe. I mean, but it seems like there's some interpretation there. I mean, how do you take that question? What do you think, Gary?
Well, I think that they made such a mess out of everything I'm not sure how they're going to explain away a lot of things that we don't care for. You know, like I said, the female Thor.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you like it or not, there is no female Thor. Period.
Right.
So I don't know how you're going to explain something that they put in print for 20 issues.
Do you think that, I mean, we're all fans of continuity, I mean, that's the whole point. Do you think that since there are things you don't care about, that do you still expect an answer? Like, would you be okay if they just said, you know what, sorry, and then do you think that they still owe everybody an explanation, even though so many people don't care about it? Like, a lot of those Marvel books, I think Silver Surfer sold, like, they're done with that particular title, but the newest round of it, the last issue sold like 5,500 or 6,000 copies nationwide. Silk sold like 3,400. I guess what I'm saying is, do you think that it's so messy and there's so much of a lack of interest? Should they even waste any time giving us a real explanation?
Well, you
Or
can
just
even
move on.
Well, you could step outside of Marvel and sit there and something that's iconic. I have many friends that are Star Wars fans. You could imagine coming in and having another Darth Vader.
Right. Oh yeah.
Not Anakin, but
That's
a whole
great
another
analogy.
Darth Vader. Yeah, and for 3 movies, they're going to have another Darth Vader. They're going to rewrite history, and somehow that the Star Wars fans are going to be like, okay, just put a new movie out and it'll fix it. It's like, no, you made a mess of this, and I'm not sure whether it's forgivable.
Well, how many people have been griping about Kylo Ren in the new one because he has anything to do with Darth Vader and making the constant comparison? I'll tell you right now, going on the record, because there's times where, I mean, where my dad always said, show me a situation where 2 guys agree on everything, and I'll show you a situation where 1 guy's doing all the thinking. So we're not always going to agree, but I would say that occasionally I'm like, okay, Gary, I'm thinking you need to be a little more open-minded with that, or this or that, or I don't quite agree with you, but I'm 100% on board. That analogy nailed it. Like, I personally, they try to rewrite Darth Vader, which they kind of are doing now with new canon and throwing out all the Dark Horse stuff. Like, this is a bunch of BS. Like, this is crappy. So, I completely agree with you 100%. That's a great point.
And I think too. I mean, I don't want to sound like grumpy old men, but it is. You're right. It's a reality. I mean, you can't.
I can't undo what I've seen.
Yeah, it's
right.
Well, and it's a huge thing. It's not like a casual passing. I mean, you're talking about major characters. You can't. I mean, okay, wait a second. Now there is a female version or an alien version or whatever. I don't know. You got to either fix it or it just doesn't make sense. And with all this old history of a classic character, and you change that, you have to fix it. I mean, I don't know why you started it, but you got to do something with it.
But at the same time, when they flush it down the drain, or they just ignore it, or they say, "Hey, it's over with," then you're conditioned to maybe expect that next time. It's like, well, you flushed down the toilet everything I was buying into for the last 30 years. Who's to say what you're pitching me now is going to be true a year from now? And I think that especially hurts collector mentality.
Yeah.
What's sort of like when one of your favorites, Walt Simonson brought in Beta Ray Bill back in the day. And he was sort of like an alien version of Thor. But they weren't saying he was Thor.
Mm-hmm.
They just said that he was worthy of holding the hammer or whatever it was. It's been a long time since I've read it. Yeah. And I have no problem with that. I have no problem whatsoever.
But he wasn't Thor.
Huh?
He took his place. He came in and sort of took his place because he was noble enough to raise the hammer, but he wasn't Thor.
Right.
Which, just as a side note, there was some kind of speculation. I was seeing this thing from San Diego where there was some kind of hint that there would be maybe a possibility of introducing that character into the movie universe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Beta Ray Bill. I'm talking hinted speculation.
Did you guys see the trailer for the new trailer for Thor?
Yeah.
The Comic-Con trailer?
Yeah.
I know you're not a big fan of the CGI Hulk, but I think it's better than it's ever been. He kind of took on that newer look, like the Smart Hulk kind of look to him. But
I would say one of the things that they did, which is very popular right now, is Groot. Where they took an old character that Mr. Walls is a huge fan of, the old Marvel monster stuff.
Yes.
And they remade him, and I wasn't sure how they were going to do it, and it was wonderful. It sort of makes you forget that, was it one story back in the day?
Tales to Astonish 13.
I mean, that was it, right?
That's it.
He didn't appear.
He never came back.
They beat him.
Well, no, he did. Well, he came back he was in the giant size, king size Hulk number 5. But he wasn't. That was the only original story.
Yeah, this wasn't 30, 40 years of of legacy, and all of a sudden they changed it.
Right.
It's like all of a sudden, Matt Murdock is not Daredevil anymore. It's like that's
Yeah.
not acceptable.
Right.
That is not acceptable. You can take him out, and you can have him have problems like Bendis did. Where he was unveiled and during that big long run. Incredible comic books. You can do whatever you want to him, but you can't change the character.
Right.
There is no other Hulk. There's not Amadeus. That is just, that is dumb. And you mentioned it, and I'd forgotten about it because I was straightening my Hulks the other day, and I can't believe it was Hercules actually took over the title towards the end of that one run.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about it, and I'm glad I was sitting down because I'm like, what a mess these knuckleheads are making of this character.
My favorite thing about that was I'm glad I was sitting down and I was straightening up my Hulks the other day.
Yeah.
You only hear that sentence here.
I see this guy with a little feather duster going.
Those words are only,
Hercules.
I mean, well,
Hercules.
I'm not in any way. That's not a criticism. I picture you doing it because I do it all the
Yeah.
time. Too. We all do.
Yeah.
It's great.
Reorganization is a very important key to the comic book life.
And speaking of modern readers, I don't care if you're watching, reading, whatever on the internet, comic books, just read them.
Yeah.
They don't have to be old school in the big white boxes and fill your room up. It's okay just to
Sure.
read them digitally.
I harp on this.
Continue to consume them.
I harp on this book all the time, but you mentioned it because of Groot. The whole Monsters Unleashed thing was huge for me because, and I've said it before, and I hate to keep repeating it, but it was huge for me because it brought back all those 60 monster characters, which was one of the first things that actually I was introduced in Marvel Comics were the monster reprints in the 70s, because that was about the time that I started collecting, thanks to my Uncle Lefty. But and that's another story. But anyways, to stay on track, I love those creatures, and it was really cool that they revisited those creatures for me. That was a big treat for me. But the new title, though, has new monsters in it. New big monsters, and which is cool, but it's sort of based on, the old creatures, but it's neat that they created a whole new group of newer big giant, kajus, so to speak, and they're going with that storyline, and I'm really enjoying it because I thought, this could really fall on its face, and I'm going to ride it to see if it does, but so far the story has been really good, and I'm okay with that. They took an old idea, the old Marvel monsters, and now there's a new group of them, but I like that. They weren't like trying to really rewrite history. They're just sort of like, okay, we're going to pick this back up. There's giant monsters again, and there's a group of them. I think it's pretty cool, and I'm okay with that. But as far as the newer versions of our old classic characters, it's hard to swallow and it's hard to deal with. So.
I got an example for that, addressing the question. It's not a top hero, A tier, number one hero, but take for example Ghost Rider. I mean the mess that the Ghost Rider's in now. Driving a car. He's in a car.
Yeah.
What?
That's all you have to say.
Ride on the car. Is he on the hood of the car? I mean,
They're in that meeting saying, "How can we make Ghost Rider less cool?"
I mean,
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Ghost Rider when I was growing up, and then when they rebooted it in the '90s with Tex and Saltaires, man, I mean, that was crazy.
Was it Midnight Suns.
There was a,
It's right
there
before
was,
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
before
Leading
that,
up to that.
But I'm not just the kitschy, glow in the dark skull cover. That was crazy. I have that, but we've touched on
was
that
nuts. I have
before.
it twice,
I
but-
do. I have it. It still glows. But I get it out.
You can even say it glows.
I know, because I saw when I was straightening up my Ghost Riders the other day.
as Kramer straightens up his Hulk's, I periodically get my Ghost Rider out, put it in the window, and charge it up.
It's got a flashlight.
Oh, yeah, peak listenership right there, buddy.
We were talking
Tough
about
crowd.
we were talking about questions. I actually had somebody this week that came in, Steven, a guy that comes in and picks up books occasionally, and I was saying, how we put that up for the question. He goes, well, next time you had a podcast, maybe throw this question out. What, if you could only own one comic book in your collection, which one would it be? And if you could pick any book in the history of the world, any comic book in the world, under any circumstances, signed, not signed, whatever, and you could own it, and no matter what it's worth, you can't sell it or profit by it. It's yours. Your only motivation is that you're as a true blue fan, you want it. What would that book be? So in your collection now, what's your, get rid of everything but one book, you get to keep one, and then if you could pick any book, to add to your collection, what would it be?
Wow.
Wow.
While you guys are thinking about it, I'll say it's easier for me because my one book
It's
is
there on the wall.
one of 9 or 10 books that I own, period. And that, yeah.
It's on the wall.
Yep. Hulk number 91.
like Dan Webb said.
Hulk. Fantastic Four 91.
Wow.
Like Dan Webb said, though, because when his longtime owner of Brainstorm Comics, hey, guess what, though? I own all these until somebody buys them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was saying to George, you don't collect them more, and George is like, this is my collection.
Yeah.
This whole story is my collection.
Yeah.
But, for me, definitely have been Fantastic Four number 91. I would say that when you're removing, like, value, if you're just talking about sentimental value,
Oh, wow.
there's absolutely nothing. I don't own anything with sentimental value that means more to me than that book that I bought at your store. It was the first book I ever bought, and I walked in there, and it was the story surrounding it. Like so many cool things that we do, it's not just what it is; it's the story that surrounds it.
Right, yeah.
Walking in there and being, like I said, like 13 and awkward and self-conscious, and going in there and there being people immediately that were like rock stars and so much cooler than I thought I had a right to be around, and immediately accepting and hey, check this out, and hey, check this out. It was like, it gave me, like, it's weird, it gave me a confidence boost in other parts of my life that, I mean, and not to sound overly dramatic about it, it was like, it definitely has a hand in who I am right now. So, thanks, or I'm sorry, I'm not sure what I should say.
Now we're putting up with you.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
To this day.
You're like, geez, why didn't I just put the close sign up when you came in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's like when we used to go to the donut shop, the girl would cringe. Oh, God, why don't I just close
Okay.
the door?
I got mine,
Okay.
and it's only up 10 issues after. FF112,
Oh, man, yeah. That's...
the classic John Pacino.
And that's the one you have in your collection that's your favorite?
Absolutely.
Or, okay.
And I think that one doesn't go anywhere, ever.
Yeah.
And then that's tough because I'm thinking like Miracle Man 15. I mean, there's some classic ones. There's classic covers.
Yeah.
But I would say 112 is.
I got to
everything
tell you,
centered
I'm
about
really,
that.
I got to tell you, I'm struggling. No,
Well,
I have it. No, I have it.
Okay.
I got it. Well, mine's actually really not in. Well, it's in the comic book world, but it's not. It's a magazine actually. It's a creepy magazine. It's number 58. It has my all-time favorite Rich Corbin story in it, that was written by Doug Mensch, and on the splash page, it is signed by Doug Mensch and Richard Corbin.
oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
your brother Dean sent stuff to Doug Mensch.
Yep.
And it took forever, but I got it. And then I sent the magazine to the Corbins. Rich's wife Donna is really cool. She handles a lot of stuff. Once a year, you can show like 10 books. You can send it. You send it in a package that's already ready to be sent back. She gets Rich to sign. I'm talking like it came back within a week. She just hands it. Rich signs them, And so I have that book, and it's my favorite. Change It to Something Comfortable. It's a werewolf story that he did, and creepy when he first was getting into the magazine world. And it's a black and white. It's great, but it's signed by both of them. I just adore that book, and it's not in a collector's shape. It's not the best condition.
But it's
But
yours.
it would be
But it's yours.
but it would be it's mine, and it would probably be the last thing that would go, just because I love the story, I love everything about it.
It's in your backpack when the zombie apocalypse
You
comes.
know it,
There you go.
absolutely. And I'm not even worried about it getting a little crinkly because it's already
It's already
crinkly.
there, so
That's
you
right.
remove
Yeah.
the stress of
Yep.
it. But
But yeah, I treasure that just because Corbin is everything in the art world to me, and it's cool to have. And Doug Mensch is a great writer. I mean, it's two things.
I got to say, historically, over the last quarter of a century, Gary's been a mentor of mine, and dare I say it, a bit of a hero. And that answer, man, was you all the way through. I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm sitting here going, what's he going to say? I'm thinking to myself, what's Kramer going to
I
say?
was
I'm
just
sitting
like,
there, I'm going
yes.
through a bunch of them, and then all of a sudden, bingo, it came up.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah. Because my brother and I, we both share that affinity for that book.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Oh, it's
No, it's a classic cover.
it was the first thing I did for this store. That was when I made the announcement
Yeah.
that we were opening. It was that cover
Yeah.
and said,
Yeah.
remember?
I remember that.
It said Calling All Heroes Comics on it.
Yeah.
What about you, Tim?
Yeah,
Hulk 198, Man Thing, Hulk, classic.
Oh, nice.
That's my favorite. It's just a kid memory I have. I still have it. I bought it off the newsstand.
back to back.
It actually has, it actually has staples in it along the spine because I wore it out.
Back to back.
When I was reading it,
with the
it's the Tim Lee signed edition. It's got my home phone number in it.
That's awesome.
And Side story. George had a pile of books traded in here earlier this year, and I was looking at them, and there was this old Raggedy Hulk, and I saw the HULK. It was all like stenciled with pen,
Yeah.
and I'm like, and I looked at it, and I was like, man, this could not be any more perfect. I opened it up, and there was my name and my phone number, and I'm like, no freaking way. What are the odds? It says 25 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Queen,
awesome.
Where did this book go?
And it's got drawing all over it and his name written in it, but he did own it. It meant a lot to him, so it was only $75.
Yeah. Gave it to me at a discounted rate. Yeah, but anyway, back to that Hulk. It's just like you said, it's not in the greatest condition. It's not signed by anybody. Well, signed by me.
Yeah.
But which makes it more important. Just that awkward, where you're writing your name, the big letters, little letters, and the Y's backwards, and
As all my books were flashing through my head, because 197 is the Wrightson cover,
Yep.
which I have signed.
I have that signed, too.
Actually, that
Yeah.
book, it stopped for a second. That'd be
It's
a hard
up
book
there.
to part
It's
with.
up there,
Yeah. But I love the 198 back
Yeah.
to back with
Yeah,
the man
man.
thing. It's
The
cool. It's
arrows
got
in his back.
arrows stuck
Yep,
in them.
yep.
That is a great cover.
Yeah,
Well, honestly, Luke Cage Power Man for me.
that's my keeper.
19.
Yeah.
June of 74. It's what started all. That's when the lights went off and said, this is what I want to do. I want to collect comic books. So, I got to turn the tables on if anybody's out there listening.
Hello?
Yeah. Well, I got a question for them. Maybe we can throw things out to them. Anybody that is listening. How about, have we discussed any comic books or characters or writers or anything that we've discussed that has turned someone on and they've actually went out and checked it out?
Yeah, that's a good call. And that's a great question, and definitely give us some feedback. I've had people that have come in that have said, hey, we listened to the podcast, and, this or that, and have bought things. Maybe not specifically on a recommendation we made, but that they were dialed into this place existing because of the conversation.
Well, somebody bought the Spawn 226 just because I kept hammering and
Oh,
hammering.
yeah. David
It's
came in, he's like...
it's like, God, Walls will shut up sometime if I buy this freaking
He came
book.
in, he's like, I was classic condition, I saw it on the wall, and then
Yeah.
all I hear is Walls talking about how great it is, and I just had to have
He
it.
says automatic. You
Yeah.
get it.
And it's,
have
yeah.
Yeah.
Homage stuff is great.
Well,
a
and
good
also,
question. That's
and
a good
also,
question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Well, there, we'll turn it back around to the listeners again and say, is there anything you suggest that we check out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, for sure.
You know,
Yeah, it doesn't have
I
to be
mean-
the big three. It can be anything. Independent. It can be any.
I'd rather it be something
anything
a little off
in
the
there.
beaten path, actually.
yeah, because I was in there the one day and the gentleman came in and bought a decent amount of books, and a lot of them were independent.
Yeah.
So whenever we're hammering Marvel for dropping the ball for the last 15 years, is there anything out there that we should be reading that we're not, that we don't talk about, that we're
Right.
missing?
When we were talking about, independence and things, it caused me to dig up the box on the bottom, which has all the Flaming Carrots in it. I went through and looked at I just looked through every one of them just to make sure they were in there too. And I was flipping through.
Sounds like a
You
great
were-
comic
you were-
website,
you were-
boxonthebottom.com.
Box on the bottom.
Yeah.
Well, the previews is an absolute wonderful thing, but at the same time, it only gives a cover sometimes.
Yeah.
Like when you're going through Image or IDW or
Yeah.
any of those, because DC has a chance maybe to expand a little bit. Marvel does. They'll have 2-page previews.
Yeah.
There's probably a dozen or 2 books that I would probably order had I see a little bit more of them. Now I do have a chance if the cover's interesting enough looking, but some of those times, what's that one book? It's like Sex or something.
Yeah.
But the covers are they just don't give you anything.
Yeah.
Now you could go check it out, I'm sure, on the website and get a couple pages of previews, or check the artist out on Google or
Sure.
DeviantArt or something like that.
Right.
But
It's like a minimalist type of approach, but you don't know what's going on. And-
yeah, I think because and a lot of times, Lord forbid that they actually use someone else on the cover, and it's not the artist inside, because that's always, you get.
Yep,
I
that's
really
the-
like
that's
the new
the
covers
bait.
on the new Batman
that's the bait.
All Star. The covers are killer on the ones
Jock.
that just came out.
Was it Jock cover?
Not both of them.
Okay.
And then I open it up, and it's like, this isn't my cup of tea.
I had a question just for you guys. Do you think when it comes to, we were talking about a pet peeve being, you get into a new book, and after 5 or 6 issues, it seems like a lot of times they'll switch the team, the whole creative team. Do you think that has anything to do with, and I only ask because Marvel, it seems like it was happening with them a lot, and that is
Oh, yeah.
the book comes out and it takes about that long, 4 or 5 issues, 3 or 4 issues, to find out where it's falling on the sales chart. And it's like, okay, this isn't doing that great. We can't afford the superstar team we have on the book. To keep the book moving forward, we better go with maybe a little more economically priced
dial it
creative
back
team.
a notch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, do you think that plays into it at all?
Could.
Because it would think that after 2-3 months of giving it a chance, then it takes you another couple months to get the new
Yeah.
team.
Well, I just the Doctor Strange thing. It was at when Bacala stopped at 20. That team stopped there, which that didn't make sense to me. Like 20 issues in, you're thinking it's, and I think it was not an upper tier, but it was a fairly successful book. I would suspect it was. People were reading it,
Especially tied in with a movie and everything.
and I look at back issues, like for the earlier issues, they seem to have, for a newer book, that book is running like $7-8 when I'm sure eBay you can find it, but I'm looking going, so I'm gauging that going, well, it's somewhat collectible. So people were, I guess, on board like I was for it.
Right.
And it really shocked me when, they went to a new team, and I get what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying, but that for that book, I was like, well, that didn't seem to me to make sense. It was
Right.
like, why now after 20
Sure.
issues? If it was 3 or 4 issues, I guess I get it, but 20 issues in, I'm like going, what the heck?
Yeah.
Maybe I've never looked into it. Maybe you guys have read something about it. But you brought up a thing where you said where they bring in a second tier team, maybe hopefully in popularity, not in monetary wise of being paid. You understand where I'm going?
Right.
In other words, Jim Lee's does he charge more?
right, exactly. So, yeah.
I don't. I've never heard that happens. To get Neil Adams to do a cover, does it cost more than Jock to do it? And Jock, of course, does some great covers.
Right.
we
But-
had a Wizard book, and I'm trying to remember. Maybe I gave it to you. The one with Alex Ross. Do you remember that? I could have sworn I gave it to one of you guys. It was a Wizard Spotlight, and the whole thing was Alex Ross.
No, you didn't give it to me.
No?
You gave me the one that had the Kelly Jones interview in it.
Okay, well, this was just a release of nothing but his stuff, and it showed him in his art room and like his process. And I mean, the entire book was just nothing but about him. And he made a couple different references in it about how his agent would get this or that, or hey, when your agent gets a good deal, or so. I just from that, I mean, I always assumed it anyway, but I think it's like any other area and aspect of entertainment.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting an individual deal, and a guy like Jim Lee is going to get more than somebody that's just jumping on board.
Yeah.
I would assume, but I've never heard it. I've never
Yeah.
read into it. It's
Yeah.
like you get certain person to do a voiceover, Sam Elliott, for your car commercials or whatever. I'm
Right.
sure he's more expensive than if
Well-
I would do it.
Well, and I also wonder too if maybe it has something to do. Talk about putting your money where your mouth is. What if it has to do with sales? I mean, Jim Lee's going to sell if they give him 10 cents for every copy sold. He's going to make a lot more money than because his books just naturally are going to probably sell more.
Sure.
I wonder if it has anything to do with that. Like, here's your guarantee up front plus a royalty or something.
Never heard about it.
Yeah, that's weird though too.
Right.
I'm sure it's on the internet.
Yeah.
If it is, then it's true.
Yeah,
Right?
if it is, then it's true.
Yeah.
It would have to be.
Bonjour.
Yeah, we're on the internet. We're true.
I'm French model.
Yeah. Bonjour. I love that.
Yeah, we're all here.
Hey, you know what? We need to answer that second tier of that question. Is okay.
you could have any book.
we picked our books that we own.
I got mine.
Okay. Tim's up.
Hulk #1.
Hulk #1.
Yep. Gray Hulk transformation.
Yep.
It's not all about the money. It's just a book that I probably will never be able to afford. But if I could have a book, that would be it. That would be the book.
Yeah.
And there's actually a Facebook page. I don't know if you remember of this. It's like low grade comic fans or something like that. And there's people on there that actually barter low grade stuff. I mean, there was one of those on there the other day, and it had like a whole third of the top of the cover was gone, and it was like a .05 or
Yeah.
something. It was actually graded.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. That could be Tim Lee's copy.
That's a Tim Lee's
That
book.
is a Tim Lee's reader copy.
Yeah.
It would be neat to just actually hold that in my hand, and actually be able to read it, thumb through it, and put it away. And it wouldn't be in the what was it the other day? I brought in some books to trade, and you're like busted on me because I had them front to back, like in the
Yeah.
This is the patented Gary Kramer storage system. You know, two books in one bag.
Oh, I do that I do that all the time.
But well, I used to put like 4 of them in there and stuff just to save bags, and then I'm like, well, I like seeing the covers.
Yep.
So whenever I pull them up,
Yeah. Well, it does save space.
It saves space.
$10.
And I just found it funny because
Yeah.
like when you come in to get your books, it's like if I have bags and boards sitting here, you know, and it's cool.
Yeah.
You come over and start bagging
That's
and boarding
right.
each one of your books
Protection.
as you pick
Yeah.
them up. But when you bring them into trade, I'm like, oh, okay, there's like 18 books in this bag. Like I see how it's playing.
It's like, oh, thanks a lot for lowballing me. But anyway, that's all joking aside. But that would definitely be in my shrine. You know, I'd have that locked down with my Hulk number 1.
I think.
Sorry if anybody else was going to take that, but that's
It's a good choice.
I think barring the book I already have, which I because I also have Stan Lee's signatures on my
Right,
mighty one.
yeah.
But if I could be anyone, I think I'd probably go with that Hulk 112 signed by Lee and Kirby. That'd be the one thing that I don't know. I mean, number 1 would be cool, but that 112, I've probably read that book
million
50 times,
yeah.
60 times legitimately. Yeah, that'd probably be mine. Now, the book that I could own, if I could own any book, is the book that you already have. So I can't wait to hear what your book is. Any one book you could own.
I'd probably have to go with Tim on the Hulk number 1.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Either that or the FF12, which is the first meeting of Hulk first thing. Because growing up, Hulk fighting thing was just everything.
That was
Yeah.
that
For
was
me
it.
too.
That was it. Yeah.
When it came that they were going to fight again, it just when Hulk appeared in FF, it just didn't get any better.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a clash of the.
I got to
Titans.
say this. I thought you were going to go for a Wolverton.
Oh man.
Wolverton.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Weird Tales
Weird
of the
Tales.
Future.
Yep. I really did. I thought that's where you were going to head.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about Mad number 1. I didn't even think about that either.
Well,
I'm
that's
sticking
the
with
problem.
Hulk.
There's too many.
I'm
There's too
sticking
many
with
of them to
Hulk.
think of.
I'm sticking with Hulk.
Yeah, actually, mine's FF number 1.
Sticking to my guns.
Is it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Big old. I get it all. I get a superhero team, and I get that big old mole monster
Oh,
coming
man,
out
that
of the
is a
ground.
no-brainer.
Yeah.
I collect. Well, you know, I collect all the like anybody that does like sort of a take on that. Mm-hmm. That's actually probably one of the only ones I don't have. You know, well, that's not true. There's probably other ones out there, but I have a bunch of, and any art that does a takeoff of FF number 1, I have a bunch of them. There's Avengers West Coast. I
Right.
mean, there's tons of them. I can't.
Yeah.
You know, but I just to me that's for me. That's as iconic as it gets for me. Just seeing that big old mole creature, and they're all doing their thing, out there trying to fight that thing. White background, I remember Robert Bell was in there, $150.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a fine copy. This is back in the
75, 76, somewhere in there.
Because I used to get the Robert Bell sold books by the bag, so to speak. You could get them in. I guess it was like a big surplus warehouse, and that's where I got a bunch of my monster reprints. If I didn't have them, they were like 75 cents, 50 cents a piece. I remember I'd like cut grass, do stuff around the house and things like that. My dad would write a little check to Robert Bell, and I actually filled out on paper,
What you wanted.
what did you
Yeah.
want it,
That's
what
awesome.
condition
Yeah.
it was in. You mailed your little thing in, and I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks. It was usually like 2 or 3 weeks later, buddy.
You checking the mailbox
Not,
the
I'd
next
see
day?
this. I sort of gauged it in my head. You see, the mailman's putting that big manila envelope. You'd be like running down there, like, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But I remember seeing that $150 for FF number 1.
We still have the catalogs.
If I'd ask you, just for the listeners that didn't pick up on it, you were saying Wolverton. You mind just clarifying what exactly you guys were talking about?
Oh,
as far as that
Basil
book?
the great
Wolverton.
Basil Wolverton. Yeah,
Basil?
his style, Basil Wolverton's style has been aped by a gajillion artists, but it's just
We did the Mad Magazine.
Yep, he was in Mad.
Yeah.
he did
Oh,
a
the
lot-
classic number
did a
1,
lot of
Lena
Mad.
the Hyena on
Did
the
a lot
cover.
Of, did a lot of Mad stuff. Yeah.
Spaghetti artist, they called it.
Yeah. He and during the wartime, he did a lot of He did artwork, like satirical artwork in Time magazine and things like that. It's just the look, which I think evolved. I mean, I think Corbin has somewhat of a little bit of a Wolverton feel to him at times, but it's just he's just to me the epitome, the classic horror look. Mm-hmm. Just anybody out there, just search Basil Wolverton, just look images, and you'll go.
He did the
Boom.
covers for the first X amount of plot.
Plop,
For,
yeah.
plot for DC. He did the covers for all
The
those.
stuff he did for Mad is just so exaggerated, and
Yeah.
he did, there was even a couple T-shirt decals, like in the back of the old '70s books,
Oh, yeah.
Marvel books. You see like cram for your exam, and it has some dude
Yeah.
like with his brain cut open, and he's
Yeah.
stuffing these books into his head, his
Yeah.
eyeballs are popping out and stuff. I actually had that. Cram for your
Another
exam t-shirt.
another really cool thing that shows you how old I am. Back in the '60s, Topps put out
Nailed it.
Topps cards
Right.
put out. There were these uglies, Topps uglies creatures,
Yeah.
and a lot of them were based on his characters. And they used to. Then they created those creatures as little rubber. I have a collection of little rubber uglies. They put them on the dime stores, in a little box, 10 cents. But they were based on Norman Sanders and some of Basil Wolverton's creations.
I remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
As a little kid, I was like, that's how I didn't even know it was Wolverton at the time, but that's what I was
Right.
like. When
That was
I see this like
drawn to it.
drool running out of the
Yeah.
mouth of this, their long tongue and the eyeballs popping out. I'm like, it's like. I love that stuff. My mother would be like, "Oh my god!" I'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that is so cool."
Well, if Wolverton was out now, I would be reading him because
Oh, yeah.
he would be an
Absolutely.
independent. I mean, his craftsmanship is just top shelf. But yeah, he would be doing stuff that you would not want him drawing X-Men
Sci-fi stuff. He did
or
some
sci-fi
sci-fi
Superman.
stuff.
I mean, he's
Right.
just
Space Hawk,
he's just
Space
so
Hawk,
beside everyone else.
Powerhouse,
So-
but he did comedy too. Powerhouse Pepper,
Yeah.
things like that. But his
He
horror
did-
stuff,
He actually illustrated. It was a Bible.
the Bible,
Yeah, illustrated Bible book. That
Yeah.
was like completely
In the 50s, I
like,
think, yep.
like Revelation stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to check that out.
Very
It's-
detailed art.
Yeah, super
Clean.
detailed.
When you talked about the butchered coffee, I have a adventure into weird worlds where it looks like bugs chewed the whole corner off of it, but it doesn't interfere with any of the art. And it's
And you have it.
our
You've
great.
done it.
It's the story Our Graveyard is
Yeah.
Missing that he did, and it's just a great story. But I got it on the cheap because it looked like some bugs
Yeah.
like ate the
It's
corner
like
of
the
the book
goat
out.
was reading it. That's
But the rest of the book is
Copy that the
fine.
goat
The
read.
staples are everything's good on it
Yeah.
except for the bug damage. I'm like, I don't. It doesn't even dip into the art. Who cares? I was like,
Well, you guys know my take on it. As persnickety as I am about the condition of my comic books, especially the new ones that I buy at conventions,
Yeah.
and I'm paying $50, $60, I'm not buying something that's okay.
Right.
Right.
I will not. And when you're talking about the Hulk #1 and the cover, that's fine if you're paying $5, $10 for it, because that's all literally I would pay for it.
Right.
I'm not paying $200, even if
Yeah.
it's a
Oh, I'm with you.
$50,000
That's
book.
what I'm saying.
I'm
Right.
not paying $200 because for that $200, I'd rather go get a bunch of stuff. And I don't know how much more truthful I can be. I give you
Right.
$5 for it
Yeah.
Right.
because half the cover's missing.
Right.
Right.
I
But
agree.
to say that I have a copy of it would
Yeah.
be really cool. But I find it almost worthless
Right.
monetary wise.
Right.
That's like the Chipwich and I, our
Chip-
good buddy Chip Emmerich. We were looking at Detective Comics. It was, I think it was 27's the first Batman in Detective Comics, and we were looking up. I believe it was number 27, but the cover was completely gone, and the bottom corner there was a rip, but somebody had it graded, and it was graded at a 0.5.
yes,
And
that's
it
the
was-
low as they go.
It was buy it now, $16,500. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh my, are you kidding?
That's
me?
crazy. That is insane.
Yes.
Yeah, there again, I wouldn't give you $16 for it.
Right.
And I can't be any more serious.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you.
I'd rather spend that $16 on some new books that I actually
Sure.
enjoy than
Right.
having something that looks like
Well,
that.
and
And most people might disagree with me, but that's
I'm
Well, I
not.
think-
Well, you
I
can't
wouldn't-
even. Well, if
Yeah, I
it's
wouldn't.
great, if it's like a .05 and it's encapsulated,
Can't look
no
at it.
cover, you can't look at it. I mean,
Well-
the part of it be to look at the story, for God's sake.
I think it goes to the motivation of why you're collecting, you being any of us, but also you specifically why you're collecting the book. I think the people that would say, "Oh yeah, I'll spend 16,000," are either people that want to try to impress someone else, or people that want to turn around and try to wheel and deal and use it for
Yeah,
a monetary
they wanna
gain.
flip it.
But like you had said in a previous podcast, I mean, your collection's for you. It's not.
Yep.
It's a personal thing, and it's not
Right.
for anybody else. So there's nothing else that matters or goes into that decision other than, do you want it? You know,
Yeah.
one of those rare areas in life where it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks
Yeah.
or anybody else says. This is what it is to you, and that's the only thing that's the only person that has to be counseled on it. You know, or
And the comic's only worth what somebody else will pay for it.
yeah.
If you think about it that way.
Comic Book Realm says that at the bottom of
Yeah.
every single
Yeah,
every
yeah,
quote.
exactly. I mean, and as far as like personal, am I going to sell this later? No, I'm done selling books. I sold my books.
Me
when
too.
Yeah, right. Right? Store's closed. Sorry. No, but I mean, I'm financially at a point in my life where I don't have to worry about digging into my books and selling, a half a box to pay for that hot water heater or do whatever I need to do. So I'm comfortable with what I have, and maybe someday, my kids will profit from them. Maybe they won't.
Right.
Who knows? I know there's some stuff in there that's really cool that is in really good shape. And then there's some other reader copies in there that's like, man, Dad bought this. Why?
See,
You
and
know?
you're in a much better position than I am because
Yeah.
I can honestly say that I would not be able to pay my bills if I didn't try to sell comic books every day. So
Well, yeah, but that's your job.
yeah,
Yeah. But just that being said, like George said, to each their own. And if I could afford the nicer stuff, and I'd get it. But there's some days it's just like, you know what? When I'm looking at the new books here, and I'm like, do I really need this one? I'm like, yeah, I really like to buy this back issue.
Yeah.
So you're kind of torn between the good stuff and the new stuff.
I had a lot of the classics. I had tons of them, and you know what I
I
spent.
see
You
some
know
of those
what
pictures of you. With
What
like,
I spend the thing about it is I spend a lot of time worrying about them. Like, you know what, I don't, and I didn't read them a lot.
right.
I know the stories. They're
Yeah.
they're beautiful, and you can't keep everything. I mean, it gets
Yeah,
to
where
the
would
point
you
where,
put
like, but that would make me nervous sometimes. I'd be like, what the heck? I mean, I have these, and somebody else. I got rid of a lot of those. I had
speaking
a lot
of
of
nervous,
those.
what if the house catches on fire? What box do you grab?
All of them,
All of them.
Yeah.
as many as I can.
You might see the real Incredible Hulk, 'cause I'm like
Busting
busting
out the
walls out, and well, I'm getting everybody out of the house first. That stuff can
I
burn.
do have,
Well,
I
there
do
again,
have the
that-
vault. I have
Yeah.
the vault.
That goes down to you're asking
getting
for
the humans
podcast
out
about
first.
the Fort of Owls trade paperback.
Obviously.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Again, I
we're-
had you order the next one. I can't wait to read it. It's something that came out, and I kept my eye on it, and eventually it became something that it's like, hey, order me the trade paperback, and I'm fine with that. Whether it be the Marvel Masterworks or any
Right.
trade paperback, if it's a reprint, I'm good.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't need to spend because I know the prices on the original issues of the Batman Court of Owls, and I'm not interested in paying a couple $100 for something that I can give you $17 for
Right.
and read it.
I'd still like to have that one though.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we'll get that, but that's only $8-10
Yeah.
or whatever and stuff. That's just ordering it from eBay.
I couldn't get one.
Classic cover.
There were artists there, and they had all sold out. They couldn't even buy one.
So, like I said, to me, sometimes just reading it, you don't need to spend $1,200
Yep.
on the first Punisher. You can
Right.
just get a trade paperback and read it
Sure.
and be satisfied.
Yeah.
We're talking about the early FFs. I have all the Masterworks from
Yeah.
first 15 of them that came out from Marvel. So I have Avengers #1 and Spider-Man #1 and FF #1 and Hulk #1. I have them all, and I can read the first 6 issues.
I had
those are nice books too. I mean, the Masterworks.
The Masterworks series, they're phenomenal.
Yeah, they're great.
The Monster Masterworks was the first one. It's in a soft cover, and I got it signed by Simonson. It's really cool. I love that idea. It's great. It has a bunch of old monster stories in it. It's a
I
great
had a challenge for you guys for next week.
All right. I like challenges.
It's funny you said earlier, don't want to sound like grumpy old men. So this will help fight that stigma.
Okay.
But
I doubt it.
Do tell.
okay, so here's the challenge. What do you think? We all pull a book, and it can be the #1 issue, or it can be whatever. If I have a trade, but we can take advantage of the fact that we got 30,000 plus books in this room. But pick a title or a hero or heroine that you've never read before, ever. Back issue, not. I mean, it can be Teen Titans. It can be. I mean, I've never read a Teen Titans comic book.
I
But-
don't think I have.
Wonder Woman-
I'm eyeballing that unbeatable squirrel girl over there, baby.
But everybody, and it can be brand new, or it can be something that's been out. I mean, I bet you I maybe read one Wonder Woman comic book in my whole life, and she's been around for 700 years. But
700.
one title or hero that you've never read before, give it a shot, and then just outside the comfort zone. I'm thinking it should all be DC because none of us are DC people.
Right.
But everybody pick one book, and then just hey. I can't believe I missed this all these years, or
Hey, I'm
no,
glad-
this is why I never
I'm
read
glad
it.
I'm still not spending my money on that.
We're going to call it the Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover challenge.
I'm looking at that West Coast Avengers up there. I'm thinking that Bertha cover there is. That's calling my name.
Great Lakes Avengers. I thought that
I've never read a Deadpool comic.
Really?
Huh.
Never.
Even the first appearance?
Remember buying
Really?
it, don't remember reading it.
Really?
How about that?
Yeah.
I don't think I've read a Wonder Woman comic book.
Really?
I have because I like Liam Sharp.
I just
Liam
realized
Sharp's
I've
on
said
it right
really
now.
17 times in a row.
Yeah.
Really?
You guys just keep surprising me, really.
I wanted to touch on something that was really cool that you guys might not know, but when you were talking about Wolverton and stuff like that, and talking about that era, the shock art, the gross
Yeah.
eyeballs popping out and stuff. This year, 2017, is the 50th anniversary of the Wacky Packages cards. and
Oh,
stickers.
yeah.
And I actually ordered I went on Amazon and ordered a box of them. And of course, I haven't opened them because I just can't bring myself to doing that. But
You
I
you
want
won't?
to. Yeah, I won't.
Really?
I didn't
Really?
open them. I kept it sealed. I'm going on record. I didn't open it.
Wow.
50th anniversary. I'm like, wow, man. I don't know if I can.
Tim
open
Lease is a
this.
hands-on guy.
I don't know
Didn't
if I
open
can
them
open
up.
this.
I'm proud of you.
I
That's
think when it comes
unbelievable.
to, I think
I don't know
when
if
it
I
comes
can
to
open this
cards,
up. Yeah.
I actually would, because I would open them up enough to get the whole set, and then if I didn't get all the, because I know they have some
You guys are
chase.
shocked.
I know they have some
Yeah.
chase cards. I'm sure in there you might have
Oh,
to
yeah.
eBay them type of stuff.
Yeah.
But
I'm like-
I would open them up, put them in a one of those card binders.
Well, maybe we'll have a card
Hey.
party. You can,
Well,
sticker party.
no, don't open them up. Just open them up enough till you get the whole set,
Let's keep the rest of them.
and then have
Keep some packs.
if they have like different variant of the
I'm
packs.
sure there's chase cards. I'm sure.
Well, no, I mean the variant, the wax or whatever the cars and stuff. If there's different ones, I would keep one of each one of them and don't open them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would
Fair enough.
definitely.
It all evens out because he's really proud of you, but I am obscenely
shocked?
disappointed.
You're shocked?
Yeah, I'm really surprised.
Good. But hey, I just thought that was neat. I was just like, I don't know why I was looking up Wacky Packages on eBay because, who does that? But like some of the first series,
Can I tell you,
The-
those
the
those are
die
crazy
cut
collectible. People are really still into
insane.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How much they cost.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to go back and collect that first. And there's only like 25 in the first series.
Yeah.
And it's like die cut.
Yeah.
Like the part. Like some people just sell like the sticker that still remains.
Right.
That's still on there, but like the die cut part's gone. Like the
Yeah.
the peeling.
Yeah.
The outside part. It's just neat. It's a whole different rabbit hole to go down on eBay. You can spend.
But there's a
hours
lot
on
of people into it. I mean, I've just seen because the images are cool. They're
And the
good.
original art from the first series,
Yeah.
man, is just
Oh,
crazy.
it's astronomical.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead, man.
About 2 or 3 years ago, it's great when you get a piece of nostalgia that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, but it's super important to you. And I had remembered, I was talking to a couple of my buddies, and I remembered going up to Lukey's store there on the corner of Ella Avenue and Elder Street, Lonnie's, Lewis's store. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but it was right there on the corner. And the whole time I was growing up, my uncle lived behind there, so I'd walk around. And this is probably 1982, 83. We'd go in there, and they had packs of Pac-Man cards.
Yeah.
And it was like a scratch. Do you remember the scratch-off ticket style? And you'd scratch off and try to get all the pellets or whatever, and win. And I just remember being like in kindergarten, and that being, if I, jumped through all the hoops and followed all the rules, that Saturday came and I got a
I know
pack
that
of those-
routine.
Yeah, I got a pack of those cards. And I just remember how great it was. I thought, man, I'm going to have to try to find those and get online and see what is this going to cost. Because I was hoping it would be reasonable enough that I could justify paying for it, getting them, opening them, and then actually
Enjoying them.
just doing it. But I knew that enjoying them isn't just looking at them, it's destroying them. You're going through them.
You got to open them up.
And it wasn't 2 days later, but I was downtown and I popped into Barney's Cards, and he had like a box, not all of them, but he had like maybe 8 or 9 packs. I said, "What do you need for those?" He said, "Oh, $2 a pack." Here's $20. I went home,
Yeah.
and over the course of a year, every time I was down, I would just walk into a room, lock the door by myself. Get a pencil or get a penny,
Get a penny,
and scratch that thing
break-
off.
break
And it
out
was
the pack.
it was the best $20 I ever spent.
That's priceless.
Yeah, it really was,
Yeah.
and just a good time. They also made them for Donkey Kong, which I had forgotten. They had a Donkey Kong one, and
There's cards for everything. They're just
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, at that time, I
Yeah.
don't know.
That's cool.
In kindergarten, you don't have your finger on the pulse of exactly what all's being released,
Right.
and so it was just like, man, this is literally a gift from heaven.
if you did, there would be something wrong.
Yeah. Hey, on another note, I got a bunch of Golden Age Casper.
I saw the
Friendly
Caspers.
Ghost.
I was looking at them. I was like,
I saw
they
my
catch your eye.
My cousin, which some of you guys know, Matt Streetbeck.
Yeah, I know Matt.
I was over. My Uncle Butch and Aunt Sherry own S&S Electric, and they've sponsored every wrestling show we've run for the last 8 years. They've been a prime sponsor. So I'd go over and get the sponsorship check and everything. And I was over there. I said, "Hey, man, I got some Caspers. They're from like 56, 1957. He's like, "How many do you got?" I said, "About 10. He said, "Are you going to be able to give me a fair deal?" I said, "Of course I'll give you a fair deal." He goes, "Save them all. I'll be over."
Awesome.
He's just a huge fan. And
They're cool.
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny. Kind of tied into the Pac-Man thing for me. Everybody has their thing, and
Everyone has their thing.
his grandfather, my great grandfather, when he was growing up, he'd stay with him, and they'd go out to the A&P, and that's you know, my great grandfather would always come home with like the Caspers and Hot Stuff and Little Lulu and
Yeah.
Archie, and that's what he grew
They're
up
big.
reading. And he has hundreds of. If I get it in and it's Archie or that, he's hold on to it. I'll be over.
That's cool.
So you,
Yeah.
you guys remember whenever like markets like had books?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like the Acme and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, I just had a flashback, so I started laughing, man. My buddy Les, I don't know if you know Les DeLauder. Remember Les?
Absolutely.
Okay, we it's back in the day. You know, whenever you find out that a book's hot, and you're like, is there still a copy of that out there on the newsstand? And you go try to find it,
Right.
You know, because it was sold out at K's. You know,
Yeah.
it was gone. You know, it's sold out.
The mad search.
It was sold out downtown at the book
Yeah.
center. You know, when they actually had comics. So like, me and Les, I got to tell you this. If Les is listening, he's gonna roll. We went to like, it was still one of the remaining big like Acme or AMP or whatever, wherever Dunham's is now. What was that? I can't remember.
Safeway.
Safeway. And I went in there just solely to find this book, and they had it. I don't even remember what it was. And I just started laughing. Les was with me, going through the checkout aisle, and the girl scanned it, and she whipped the book and threw it like down at the end of like putting the bag. And Les said my head like literally about to come off my shoulder. It was the last book there too. Les said it was like. Whoosh. Actually, like
You're doing like a kick.
Listen, I really thought you were going to grab hold of that girl's neck and
Snap her.
You realize what you've done?
Oh yeah. Oh,
At least you didn't put the paid sticker on the front for
Yeah. Went that in the bag. Flip. I was just like,
you. You could hear the record screech.
yeah, it was gold, man.
Or everybody,
It's like,
all sound stops and everybody looks up.
clean up on aisle 3. So why did they arrest you, Mr. Lee? Well, it's a long story. Looking for this book. Yeah, that was gold, man. That's just like my eyes, like when you start saying that about everybody has their memory. That was one of the recent memories. You know.
Oh, that's great.
Well, on a lesser note and stuff, you know, being a big Kiss fan, you know, the rock group Kiss, to clarify, yeah, I would get magazines that they'd be on the cover. You know, collector. You know, they say, I said collector's item, but when they made the big comeback in 96 and stuff,
yeah.
you know, they put out a ton of magazines, and you go and you'd always try to very carefully hand it to the cashier.
Oh yeah.
So, please don't put a half moon in this.
Yeah.
You know, don't put a bend in it. And I'm not saying anything because I'm on a wing and a prayer that they put it in. You know, you almost want to hand it to them, have it scan it in your hand.
Yeah.
Right.
And, can I have a bag and put it in there because you don't want anything.
Listen, I wouldn't be too bold not to do that.
That is
Just give this back
Yeah.
to me.
You gotta
Yeah.
take it
Yeah.
easy on the merchandise.
I remember being at Hills, and I think it was right before it became Ames, like maybe a year or so before, and they had layaway. Well, man, when you're a teenager, layaway's great
That's
for
the
the
thing.
toys.
Yeah.
And I remember going in and my good buddy Doug, I was in there with him, and they had released some Hulk figures, and they had the Mr. Fix-It figure. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I do remember that.
Early to mid.
The Gray Hulk. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, they had all
that's
those.
my favorite.
He
man.
goes through and they have pretty much everything he needs, and he's just delicately setting each one in the thing. He goes, wheels it all back. I'm standing there, and he goes to hand it, and the woman slides them off. She scans them all. Then she picks them up, turns around, and he's like, and she just lets go. And the whole phone thing went. Well, I guess you can keep that crap. Oh, he didn't say crap. He's like, I guess you can keep all that crap. I'll be back in a minute. And went back and had to get other copies. I was like, please place these in there gently. And I got to break it down to her. But
Yeah, because most cashiers aren't.
They don't
They
care.
don't. Yeah, they don't get it. Yeah.
Actually, I think they have some little chip in them that's the anti-collector. Like
Why can't they be more intelligent?
Yeah.
Right, guys.
Yeah. To which my wife said, "You nerds."
I think when you were talking about the wacky packages and you say 50 years,
Yeah.
you know, if you have them back in the day, Walls used to come over my house, but you guys all came over when I had my man cave.
Yep.
And, you know, I remember the one time you commented on how much eye candy there was in there. And this is stuff that I thought was really cool. You might see some things you've never seen before, things
Yeah.
you're not familiar with, but you're like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Right.
And I always collect, I'd always like to go to flea markets. I never do, but just to find little strange things.
Yeah.
And that's stuff that I would put up on my shelf. The problem, where I'm going with this, is in there, as you were saying about collections are for yourself. You're not trying to impress anybody
Right.
with your coverless Detective 27.
It's just something
Right.
neat.
Right,
that
but
you,
unfortunately,
that you need.
as we are, you know, age-wise, a lot of the stuff that we find very nostalgic is expensive.
Yes.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like
Yeah.
the wacky packages. They're 50 years old. You don't want to put a price. You don't want to get your credit
Oh,
score
those
out.
little rubber monsters.
Right.
Some of those things are like $100.
Yeah, but I mean, unfortunately for us, a lot of the stuff that we hold near and dear is going to cost
Yeah.
you a mint.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what though, and that's what makes it all the more special when you can grab a $2 pack of Pac-Man cards or get
Yes.
a book that you owned 40 years ago for,
Yeah.
for whatever, $1.
Yes.
Or,
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
every-
I
It does
think
happen.
You actually gave that book to me. You're like, well, since it has your name on it, it's on the house.
I think it's already yours
Yeah.
because if it's like if your parents are like everybody else's, this left without your permission.
Yeah, it did.
But that's one of those things. But I would hope that I remember one going back to Kiss that a guy from right around here, I think he's from Ridgely, was it Dean or myself? And it was an early pack, the envelope and everything of an early Kiss press pack.
Oh wow, that's cool.
I mean,
neat.
you know, stuff
Yeah.
that
neat.
we never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey man, I've had this, I picked it up, blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, some people that went to concerts and got a chance to see things that you didn't see. And it's like, hey man, here's a signed copy of blah, 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 you know, of Alice in Chains. And you're like, oh my goodness, you know.
Yeah, right.
Concert
Right.
tickets, those kind of things sort of fall in your lap once in a while.
Yeah.
And you try to do the old poker face, but you're like, I can't believe I'm, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't believe that someone's given this to me.
Yeah, I don't do the poker face really well.
Yeah.
I-
I'm like,
I've been-
I mean, I can't. I mean, if somebody brings books in, you know, like here, I
Yeah.
have a pretty good. I'm good. But
Yeah.
if somebody's handing something to me, like here, this is for you. I'm like,
I've been working on it. When I have somebody
Yeah.
comes in and says, "This was my son's, and I just need $5," I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, are you sure?
I still get that like little kid in the candy store thing when George gives me a book that he knows I'm going to like. He's like, "Hey, I put this back for you. Want to check it out?" And I'm like, "Oh, neat. How much is it?" And he's like, "It's yours." And I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "You got that same reaction every time." Really?
Yeah.
Like a little kid, you know? Oh, gee, mom.
Is that where he gets
thanks.
that from? Really?
Yeah, thanks. Really?
Good
Yeah,
times.
yeah, these little needles in the haystack. Sometimes they present themselves to you.
Well, guys, we've been going. We're about an hour and 15 minutes in, so hopefully whoever
Didn't
was
seem
asking,
like it.
asking for us to be a little longer. But one thing I wanted to mention, if you guys got any feedback on the Meet the Beatles cover, as I sure did.
My oldest daughter, who is likes nostalgic rock music and loves the Beatles, she loved it.
That's awesome.
People I work with
She
thought,
loved
I've lost my mind, but
Yeah.
they're I'm used to them saying that. I've been there 28 years, so they know there's not much up there anyway. So
But I showed it to somebody though, and was surprised that they did not get where it came from.
really,
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with Brett the other day. I was like, how do people not get Meet the Beatles? I mean, you know, it's like he's like,
Yeah.
dude, we're old.
Well,
Yeah, we are.
and that's why when I initially posted it, I put it beside. The,
yeah, but-
just so-
just for
But
reference.
I'm sorry, just for me, I can't. That's
yeah,
history.
Yeah.
Yeah, like but and not to be disrespectful, but was really shocked. Someone's like, "Oh, okay, I don't, didn't get it until I showed them the
Right.
original picture." Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And that's one thing we have to be careful of with the listeners. If there's anybody that's
Yeah.
15 out there that we're assuming they know who Basil Wolverton is.
Right, and
Yeah.
and sometimes
Because they're going, "What?"
Do yourself
Yeah.
a favor. Go look up Basil Wolverton. Look up Wally Wood. Look up
Graham Ingalls.
Look up Kurtzman. Look,
Yeah.
know.
yeah.
Yeah. If people love Kelly Jones and love Bernie Wrightson, go look up Graham Ingalls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of great comics that are still coming out. New artists, new ideas, new look. So we're not discrediting any of that.
Sure.
Absolutely not.
But all those great artists now, I would say that a majority of them are in one way or another influenced by all these other people that you guys are mentioning.
No.
All the new artists, they would mention the same people.
Sure.
If
And
they're
you
of
can't
a
have
certain age.
Jeff Darrow if you don't have Wolverton.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
yeah.
just look at
Actually,
his-
you're right. He's the
His body
closest.
parts
Yep.
flying everywhere, eyeballs popping
Yeah.
out. Just,
Even the style. Even
Yeah.
some of the style.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Girl.
We had to
Gotta
get it in,
throw that
right?
in
Yeah,
there, yeah.
toss it in there. All right. Well, been a great episode. That was really entertaining. And guys, we'll be back here next week. Please send the questions. And are you guys up for the challenge?
Yeah.
To read something
Yeah.
that a character you've
I'll
never
pencil
checked
it in. See what I did there? See
Pencil
what I
it
did
in.
there? Pencil it in.
And maybe next week, Gary, if you get the chance to read Volume 2 of the Batman story, we'll just get your take on that.
Absolutely.
All right, sounds awesome. Thanks again, guys, so much for listening. Please keep the questions and the comments coming in, and we will see you next week. I'm George,
Walls.
Kramer.
Tim.
and we'll see you next week. Thanks again so much.